So Saints managed to snatch a replay from the jaws of defeat at Watford. 1-1 the final score. Steve, you were there today. How was the away end? How was the game?
Yeah, I mean, packed away end, always a bonus, these FA Cup games where you get a bigger allocation. And yeah, decent noise for the most part. The game itself was scrappy but open. Weirdly, it was a little bit like the game in the league where we had periods of the game where we just found a way to give the ball away, which was really frustrating. But I think that was probably to be expected with 9 changes to the starting lineup. I think the disappointing thing was that there were certain players who I think you were really hoping for a sort of breakout performance to kind of illustrate that they've got what it takes to be in the starting 11 for the league games that we're obviously taking much more seriously. And for the most part, none of them really showed up, unfortunately. Charlie Alcaraz was busy, but kept giving the ball away in simple areas. Sort of even before we got into their final third. Tyler Dibbling unfortunately just didn't get the ball. And there was part of it that kind of felt like there was a lack of movement up front, and it felt very much like those games at the start of the season, sort of around the end of August, beginning of September, where we just didn't have that cohesion, which I think you would expect with that many changes, but it just felt as if you kind of thought that after all this time that even the fringe players would be able to kind of drop into the lineup and know their duties. And I know there's a couple of players that are in there who haven't played an awful lot at all. But the ones that have played quite a bit, you would have thought that they would have stepped up a little bit. Jack Stevens was okay. Howard Bellis had such a weird game. He was either brilliant or awful, and there was kind of no sort of in between of him just doing what he does. Like, it was his mistake right on half time that almost cost a second goal, and yet in the second half there were 2 or 3 challenges that were sort of chance saving challenges, and his sort of balls over the top for players to run onto. So it was just a really disjointed performance until we made quadruple sub, bringing the big guns on, and that settled us down, and we basically just camped ourselves in Watford's last sort of 30-40 yards or so for the remainder of the game. And I mean, the draw was at least kind of the least we deserved, but ultimately it's also the result that
we wanted the least.
That neither side wanted that. And you could tell by the way that we were piling it on in injury time that we were absolutely desperate to get a second one and not have this extra game. But unfortunately, if you leave yourself only 20 to 25 minutes to actually play in, then yeah, you do run the risk of not getting the result you're looking for, unfortunately.
But Eleanor, welcome back to TSP. Thank you for joining us tonight. Still in the cup, the unbeaten run continues. What did you make of the result, first of all? Because it was the game that none of us really wanted, and it ended up with the result that none of us really wanted.
Yeah, I mean, I only got to listen to it on the radio, so I was listening to Adam Blackmore. But I mean, I was kind of happy that we were still in the FA Cup, because I'm one of those, like, even though I'm only in my 20s, I'm one of those like nostalgic people who love the FA Cup. So obviously, like, getting promoted is more important. But I was happy when Stuart like scored a lovely goal, basically like edge of the area. So yeah, I don't think we needed another game. I don't think we needed the replay, but I'm hoping we'll manage to sort of beat them in the replay. But the first half did sound like quite lethargic, and just, I don't know if it was the midfield like being quite defensive and there being a lot of changes, but it didn't sound like, obviously the Swansea game had amazing, like some of the best football we played. It didn't sound like that. It sort of sounded like we gave the ball away a lot, and Watford seemed to be a bit more like they wanted to win the tie. And I think I was sort of like the second half, I heard there was like no changes at the break, and then I think when we did eventually make the changes, because obviously like both Armstrongs and Ryan Fraser, like it just injected a lot more pace into the game, and obviously Stuart made some great runs down the left hand side. So it was just, yeah, brilliant when he sort of brought on like the better players, really.
It's a shame he had to, though, isn't it, Glenn? I mean, I had written down like 9 changes was always going to disrupt the rhythm, but you kind of think surely we're at that point in the season now where it shouldn't really. You know, we should have players that can come in and they're so well drilled and want to do well that it doesn't disrupt the rhythm.
Yeah, but these players are reserve players for a reason, in the main. You know, and you could maybe, you know, in any sort of league game, you substitute on 2 or 3 of them, and the level doesn't drop because they're replacing tired players. But if you play 8 or 9 from the start, including some youngsters, and youngsters can sometimes be good and sometimes be bad, and that's just the nature of you know, of being a young player playing only your second or third game. I mean, I thought Jaden Magoma was pretty decent at left back, so he had a good day. Tyler Diblin, as Steve said, didn't have such a great day. The players I was disappointed in were the experienced players who are not in the team who come in. You know, Mason Holgate in the first half was atrocious, and in the second half he was brilliant, and that sums his career up in a nutshell. You know, he's capable of being very, very good, and but you're more surprised when he is good, and you're less surprised when he's absolutely shocking. And he's had both. He seems to be 9 out of 10 or 1 out of 10, and there doesn't seem to be any in between with him. And that's, you know, it's another Ainsley Maitland-Niles, unfortunately.
Would you have subbed him at half time though? Because that, you know, that was on that first performance.
Yeah, I think he was. He was very lucky to come back out for the second half, but obviously Russell Martin had said at half time, that was awful, go out and do better, which is, you know, which is sometimes an effective way of going about things. And that seemed to work with Holgate. There were some others that didn't work with. Joe Rothwell, I'm really struggling to see it. I know he's only been here a couple of weeks, but I'm struggling at the moment to see anything to make me think that transfer is going to be worthwhile, especially with Joe Aribo coming back into the mix. It was so much better when you know, the midfield when Will Smallbone and Stuart Armstrong came on. It just, the midfield went from nowhere, and I thought Shea Charles was decent actually. I think he got taken off simply because, you know, we needed a goal, and yeah, I thought the midfield improved massively with the substitutions, and then we managed to sort of pin Watford back a bit. And you know, Ryan Fraser, Sam Ammo, Adam Armstrong, all the subs had an impact, which is a bit of a complete turnaround from last week against Swansea, where none of the subs had any sort of impact at all. But yeah, the players came in. Some will be pleased, some won't be. Alcaraz didn't, you know, as Steve said, just gave the ball away lots and lots. He looked a bit more comfortable at the end when the breaks were off. You know, we got 20 minutes to score a goal, and therefore there's no real defensive responsibility. We're either going to equalise or we're going to lose 2-0. And it, you know, and with no one wanting a replay, I guess the pressure was off, and he could play with a bit of freedom. But he had a strange game, and there were just too many in that first half, who stunk the place out. You know, you're not going to have a good team performance if you've got 5 or 6 players who are making basic mistakes. And we've not even talked about Joe Lumley trying to save the ball without his arms on the goal. I mean, not only is the non-wall absolutely ridiculous, but then to get beaten at the near post like that and not use your arms, it was a very, very strange goal.
He looked like a character from Spamalot. Is it the Knights when they've cut their arms off and just dive in without his arms? Was that your end, Steve? Were you?
Yeah.
Did you see that? Did you get a good view of that? Because I was watching.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of directly behind the line of it, and it was just, it looked as if basically he lost track of where his near post was.
I think he was going wide.
He thought it was going wide, and he's pulled his arms away, and he's just got it very badly wrong.
But what about only one man in the wall as well? That must have been him.
Yeah.
Was that on him? He must have said,
I assume that's by design. I mean, the wall was kind of lined up okay, I think. But with only one man there, you've got a very narrow kind of target to get past, and you've only got to get past it slightly, and you're then arrowing in at that near post, aren't you? It's I mean, he's hit it well, to be fair, but yeah, I mean, Lumley should be saving that comfortably, really.
And I just want to talk about the that depth in squad, Eleanor. I know you kind of touched on it, but does this, this was a real opportunity to prove that actually there is a bit of depth in the squad there, and we've got a bit of strength, and there are a lot of games coming up. Does it worry you a little bit when you see those changes made today and players coming in and not necessarily having the impact that he was hoping for?
I don't know, because I remember with some players it took them a while to kind of get to grips with Russell Martin's style of play. So I don't know, because I don't really remember much mention of Joe Rothwell. So I don't know with him if it's just that maybe he'll get better. But I know with Tyler Dibbling, there's a lot of promise there, and obviously they're still really young players and they just need more game time. But obviously Aribo coming back as well, that would be good. But I know with Jack Stevens, that's a nice bit of depth centre back wise, and then Holgate, I remember him at Everton, and yeah, he's just it's so hard to predict really how awful or how good he's going to be. Against West Brom, he was amazing, but he's not really played because we've not needed him. But I think James Bree as well. Obviously Ryan Manning and Walker Peters, when they play, it's fine, but I do miss James Bree. That would be a good bit of depth as well. So I'm not sure really, because I think we've got quite a nice bit of depth in midfield. Although Shay Charles, for me, I definitely prefer when Will Smallbone and Flynn Downs are in midfield. But yeah, it'd be nice to have a striker, I think, but somebody that's in the box, sort of just there, instead of someone that's also the creator as well as the finisher of goals. But I think
someone
it's just
other than
about
Sekou Mara.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm still not really convinced by him. Really, I want to be, because he was
Glenn's
all
not
right.
either. No.
Yeah, it's sort of
Revelations.
hard. Yeah, sort of hard work really sometimes with him. But yeah.
We're going to moan about all the games that are coming up, though, Glenn. But do we look at this replay as another chance for those players and the squad players just to build a bit of sharpness for coming? I'm trying to think of the positives of having an extra game against Watford midweek. Is it another chance for them to go, actually, do you know what? That first half was terrible. We saw what they needed to do, and if he does make 9 changes, then they're going to be adamant and desperate to make sure he doesn't have to rely on the subs again like he did today.
When is the replay? Do we know?
I think it's week commencing the 5th, February the 5th.
Correct.
So yeah.
So it's going to be in the middle of what was already a packed month.
Yeah.
So it's so there's no way we play Watford at home with anything other than the fringe players all playing again. It's going to be roughly the same lineup as today, and we have the dubious prize of going to Anfield if we win. We'll probably do about as well as we did when we tried to win the podcast awards. Left out in the car park and winning nothing, but
leaving at half time.
Leaving at half time. But so yeah, I mean, the positives that come out of it is the likes of Jaden Magoma, Tyler Diblin, Sam Amo will get another game. They'll all get at least 45 minutes in that game, and it gives the opportunity for the likes of Joe Rothwell, Charlie Alcaraz on the fringe of the team to come back in. Maybe it's a game. I don't know if Joe Aribo's back by then. I don't know when the AFCON finishes. Probably not. But it might be a game for him to get back up to speed. So yeah. I mean, it'll be another game for Joe Lumley as well. So that is the positive about it, and there's definitely no way that we'll go full strength for it, because if we weren't going to go full strength today when we didn't have a game last midweek or next midweek, we're certainly not going to do it in the middle of a fixture pile up in February. So yeah, and it'll be at home, so that'll be more helpful to the youngsters, I guess. There'll be more goodwill towards them, and I hope the club get the pricing right, because it'll be in the middle of obviously quite a few games coming up. So yeah, it's another game of football. So I'm happy with it. Just another midweek of St Mary's, fine.
Yeah, you're right. If the price is right, then it's not necessarily a bad thing. Steve, you called it in the week that the referee was going to be terrible, and he at least lived up to your expectations. There was one thing that didn't disappoint today.
I mean, it's not really a difficult prediction these days, is it? Guessing that a referee's going to have a shocker, but yeah, we've had Michael Salisbury a few times, and I I don't think he's ever been anything other than completely erratic. Some proper weird decisions today. I mean, I think he's a little bit unlucky actually in terms of the Holgate decision for the free kick. Because from my angle, you could actually see that Holgate did get a toe end on the ball. But the way the guy's thrown himself over, and the way Holgate goes in for the challenge, you could understand why he thinks it's a foul. But then there was a counter attack that we started where Shay Adams basically gets booted in the air from behind after he's kind of flicked the ball around the corner. And because there's this new guidance that's been in the laws for a year or two now that it's now the bookable offence is now sort of stopping a promising attack. Well, because he managed to flick it round and we carried on the attack, because that attack wasn't stopped, the booking for hoofing someone up in the air is suddenly null and void. I mean, that's just garbage, isn't it? Absolute nonsense. And there were 2 or 3 weird decisions kind of later in the first half as well. I mean, there wasn't an awful lot to give in the second, other than I mean, it was interesting to see the roles reversed, where Watford were the ones indulging in some absolutely ridiculous dark arts, time wasting, and all that sort of nonsense. Given what they
what we did when we were there in the league game,
exactly. It was. Yeah, I mean, we all found that a little bit weird, didn't we? And I mean, for Watford to be doing it, I mean, when they're 1-0 up, I guess you kind of expect it. But you just want referees just to get a grip on it. It's not difficult. But hey, here we are.
Would it be the same ref for the replay? Is that how it works? I can't remember.
That's a good question. I think it might be.
Probably will, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Great, lucky us.
And just on that draw, Eleanor, I know we shouldn't be getting ahead of ourselves, but it was odd that the draw kind of worked out where I think it was like halfway through the second half, we suddenly knew that it would be a trip to Anfield, and everyone was like, "Oh, do you know what? Just sack it off, turn it in, don't worry about it." But you think that the magic of the FA Cup for someone like yourself, and it's still there, and you're still really excited about that and the potential trip to Anfield?
Oh yeah, I know we won't beat Liverpool, but like I hope we will somehow. We never seem to like get much luck against them, and obviously like there's all this stuff with Klopp at the moment, so I'm sure like they'll end up winning the FA Cup anyway. But yeah, I'd love to think like somehow we can manage to win there if we win the replay, but I don't hold out much hope, to be honest. Yeah.
It just seems a bit of a shame that it might be Liverpool that end that unbeaten run. I'm going to ask you all for Player of the Week, so have a little think. I mean, Steve, you probably do you want to go first because you were there? I'm just going to go with Stu Armstrong.
Yeah, slim pickings.
I mean, anybody from the 4 that came on or the 5 that came on?
Stu would have been my pick. God, yeah. I mean, there's really not many options. Fraser was good. Properly motoring down that left wing. I mean, there was one run he made literally within a minute of coming on where he must have sprinted 70 yards, and you could see that he was absolutely knackered at the end of it. It's like, let's keep that energy up, shall we? But yeah, Stu Armstrong, and yeah, I'll go with Fraser as my pick, I suppose.
This could just be a 2-horse race this week. Glenn, any names you want to chuck in?
The only one. Yeah, one of the. I thought Jaden Magoma had a good game. I'd chuck him in there, and Sam Ammo when he came on, I think it's worth a mention. I know he came on at what was a perfect, with a perfect brief for him, which is don't worry about defending, just try and make something happen, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And I thought he was excellent when he came on. So yeah, I'd say I'd big up the 2 youngsters, but. Yeah, I mean, really, it's Stuart Armstrong or Fraser are the 2 that stand out for this week, I think.
Anybody you want to add to the list, Eleanor? The bit that you caught. Anybody you want to chuck in, or is it going to be Stu Armstrong?
I think it probably should be Stuart. Really, I don't say Jack Stevens, but like not really as like the best player, just because he was like showed good leadership in the second half and made like some good interceptions. But surely it's just Stuart, really.
And I must just say, you missed some of the game. Where were you today, and what were you doing? Because it sounded a bit more exciting than me sat at home listening to it on the radio.
Oh, I did the St Mary's tour, so that was it. Yeah, stupidly instead of going to the game, but yeah.
But how was it? Is it worth doing? I did it a very long time ago, and you can see the prison cell where some guy from Sunderland
Yeah.
kicked the door in. That's how long ago it was. I don't know if they've replaced the door or not. Was it
Yeah, I think they
worthwhile?
have,
Was it
yeah.
good?
Yeah, it was good. Like I got it as a birthday present, so I was just like mainly going around the hospitality suites that are very expensive. But yeah, it was nice. Nice to see some actual like trophies. Obviously, mainly FA Cup that we won as well. So yeah, it was nice place. Yeah.
It is a bit of a myth that there's nothing in the trophy cabinet. There's a couple
Yeah.
of little bits in there. Lots of pennants, if I remember rightly.